in check, I would be able to make it home. By the grace of God, I was able to start my car, and I did make it home. But getting out of the car now was very difficult because by now I was so weak because I was hemorrhaging massively. And I was so weak I could barely lift my foot just to get over the door where I could get out of the car. But I made it into the house. My wife was gone. Children was going to school. I can't remember exactly how I made it in, but I wasn't there very long until my wife came in. Immediately, she recognized the gravity of the situation, somehow got me out of that house, back into the car, and brought me right back to the town I just came from, right up in the parking lot of the family clinic. And just as she parked her car there, one of the physicians came in, parked right in front of us. My wife jumped out of the car, ran around and opened the passenger door and tried to pull me out of the car. By now I was so weak I couldn't even lift my hand, and when she pulled on me, I fell out of the car. The doctor standing out, just getting out of his car, standing right in front of us, saw this, and he rushed over to give aid. But one look, he recognized I was already in shock.
Wow.
Now, what happened to me that day, they later told me. There is a main artery that runs across the back of the stomach. An ulcer had formed on that artery. I guess that's what they call a silent ulcer because I didn't have any symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And it had grown and eaten away the wall of that artery and allowed it to balloon out. That's what they call aneurysm.
Mm-hmm.
And it ballooned out so far that it became so thin that at the very moment it reached that exact stage, just when I arrived at the bank, it couldn't withstand the pressure of the heartbeat, and it popped like sticking a pin in a balloon. Now, of course, there in the parking lot, they didn't know that was what was wrong with me. They only knew that I was in shock, and the doctor were trying their best to help me there. They moved me from the clinic to the local hospital, and they said they couldn't help me until they could find out where the internal blowout was. They were giving me blood and drip and all this all the time. And they attempted to evacuate the body cavity, but I was losing blood internally faster than they can get it out. So after bringing me out of shock the third time, my doctor announced that he's going to have to find more sophisticated equipment and greater help. He had to have it in a hurry. So they're going to move me to the regional medical center, which was 45 miles away. They put me in an ambulance, hooked me up to all that machinery, allowed my wife to ride with us, and we took off post-haste. Had a paramedic attending to me in the ambulance. 19 miles before we reached that hospital, my veins collapsed. I was unable to take the blood of the drip. And that's at that point, I lost sight of the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the paramedic went forward, picked up the radio microphone, told the hospital ahead the patient has died.
Wow.
All the vital life signs have failed, he said. Prepare the emergency room. Have a physician meet us on the ramp when we arrive. Approximately 14 or 15 minutes later, our ambulance arrived at the regional medical center. Dr. Sidney Ross was standing outside. When they took my body out of that ambulance there on the ramp with a razor blade, he cut my chest and began to infuse blood directly into the main artery. About a minute later, they had me in the emergency room where Dr. Ross with 6 other physicians worked around about this body in that emergency room from 5 p.m. till 12 midnight. They very quickly restored my vital life signs, but they could not get them stabilized. It was all the way up to midnight before they felt they were stable enough to even move me to the ICU. Around midnight, they transferred me to ICU, where Dr. Ross and 2 of his assistants continued to work on me throughout the wee hours of the night. Around 6 a.m. Saturday morning, the vital life signs began to fail again. Dr. Ross came out and spoke to my wife, told her he'd done everything humanly possible. The only thing they didn't do, which they could do, would be surgery, and it would be major surgery. However, he said, in my expert opinion, I want to tell you right now, he cannot make it. No one who's in such a weakened condition after having lost such vast amount of blood could withstand the rigors of this kind of surgery. Well, they decided that they would try it. So a little after 6 a.m., they carried me down to surgery. And Dr. Ross and his assistants worked on me in surgery some 10 hours, coming out around 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Now, Dr. Ross had met me on that ramp at 5 o'clock Friday evening. He never went to his house till after 6 o'clock Saturday evening. I'd just like to include this part as a testimonial to the dedication of those medical people. Wherever I go, wherever I tell this testimony, I always include that because I thank God for every doctor, every nurse, every orderly, every technician who had any part in that long and arduous battle that started in that ambulance at 4:45 Friday evening and raged throughout the entire weekend as those medical personnel worked so diligently in an attempt to preserve whatever spark of life that was in this human body.
Well, now let me stop you for a minute.
All right.
I don't want to take you away from the story that you're on you're progressing forward with the story, but I just want to inject something here for the listeners. And you don't have to even, address this right at this moment, but I remember reading in your book that the Lord had revealed to you in a dream some 10 years before this happened to you.
7 years.
It was 7 years before your clinical death experience.
Right.
That you had been shown in how many dreams?
7.
You had 7 dreams.
Over 5 dreams over a 7-day period.
5 dreams over a 7-day period,
right.
7 years before you had the clinical death experience.
That's right. And these dreams were what was going to happen to me, but I couldn't recognize them then. You see.
Did you journal these dreams at the time?
Oh, I did. I recorded those dreams. After the 3rd dream, I recorded it, and because they were so unusual and so different from anything else when it was happening, I knew that there was a message of some kind in there, but I didn't know what it was. And I played these dreams many times. I recorded them on a tape recorder, and the first 2 was strictly I was recording from memory, but 3, 4, and 5 I recorded immediately after I had them. So I played these at different groups, hoping somebody could give me a clue as to what these dreams really meant, because they were all connected. Every one of the dreams were connected, and it was amazing in itself. Of course, I was unaware of how, at that time in my life, I was unaware of how God actually used in all of creation numbers. But it is amazing to understand the order in which He has His Word sealed with a invisible watermark or a number. The numbers throughout the Bible. All of these things are amazing, but I was unaware of it at that time.
Well, I'm glad you shared that because I'm a big believer in prophetic dreams and visions, and I'm always telling people, write your dreams down. I believe that the Lord, I call Him by His Hebrew name, Yahuwah, but I believe He speaks to us in prophetic dreams and visions, and I write every dream down because sometimes when you have these dreams, you don't understand them until later on, then they make sense.
Well, He says that He'll speak, He says this in the book of Job.
Job 33, exactly.
Yeah, He'll speak in dreams and vision once or twice, but men don't perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
But He gives 251 examples in the Bible of His message. I call that the God's method of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And He uses dreams like, I don't know about you, but when I started to school and started to learn to read and write, we read pictures, and this is how the kindergarten teachers started out teaching us how to read and understand by using pictures, and this is how God writes a letter to those in dreams and visions. If you take the images in your dreams and you record every detail, there's no such thing as a minor detail in a dream.
I agree.
If it's from God.
I agree.
And these details actually become paragraphs, and you can